This year's Traka was going to be the hardest edition of the race yet.
I'm completely ruined.
I was going to run into a huge amount of issues. I was going to see if I could get revenge on my brother who 360 no scope dispatched me off the wheel last year with my not just lack of minerals, lack of form. This year, I really wanted to go one better. Let's get into it. In this video, we're going to talk about wrecking the course, why we do that, my setup for the Traka 200, my nutrition plan, how I got on in my race, what I think I did well, what I didn't do well. Stay locked. I've already made quite a bit of content already on Instagram about the Traka 200. Go check that out if you haven't already. Shout out to all the people here with longer attention spans. Let's get it. Okay, what is the Traka? The Traka is actually Europe's biggest gravel race, fastly becoming probably the biggest gravel race in the world at some point. I did the 200 kilometer distance, which was on the Saturday. There's also a 360 distance, a 100 distance, a 560 distance. For the 200 kilometer distance, we had 2,600 meters of elevation. The course was going to be much harder this year. Gerard, the organizer, has put in these 3 enormous climbs at the start of the race, which you hit back to back. Then towards the end, instead of having this sort of nice sort of rolling gravel, a little bit of single track, he decided to send us up this enormous steep climb.
Completely and utterly ruined.
The poor hundreds who raced the day after us had to do that in the mud. The conditions for the Traka 200 were going to be, it rained the night before. Actually, this was going to reduce the amount of dust. There was a huge amount of pollen, dryness in the air. Actually, that took quite a few people out of the event, sadly. I will say this now, I'm going much better on the bike. Last year, I did it in about 7 hours, the 200. This year, I did it in 7 hours, 22 minutes. That maybe explains how much harder the race was going to be this year. We'll get into it. I actually live in Girona. I've lived in Girona for the previous 2 years. I know quite a lot of the course already. I thought it would be really important to recon the first 20-25 kilometers of the course, the last 20-25 kilometers of the course. I spent the Thursday and Friday leading up to my race on the Saturday doing exactly this with some of my Rafa Collective teammates. Why would you do a recon? The start and finish are probably the 2 most important parts of the race to know exactly where the course is, because at this point, you're going to be fighting people for position, either at the start where it's a mass start, which most of the gravel races are. On the last part of the course, it's probably the part of the course where you're not thinking straight, the part of the course where you're lacking the most minerals. Therefore, you want to give yourself the least amount to think about. If it comes down to it, you're fighting somebody for a position, you know the course better than them, you're much more likely to be able to gain an advantage if you just know the last part of the course. Also, these are generally just the easiest bits to recce rather than going out to the, I don't know, heading out into the middle of absolutely nowhere just to recon one of the climbs. Okay. The setup that I went for, I'm using the Colnago C68 gravel bike. I'm 5'8", I run a 48 centimeter frame. It's Italian sizing, but slightly different. This is the tire I ran for the Traka 200. It's the Pirelli Cincerado RC. I ran a 45 on the front, a 40 on the rear. In hindsight, I wish I'd ran the 45 on the rear because I did flat on the rear. I ran inserts. Something that's worth doing if you've been using your gravel wheels for quite a while is getting all of the valve cores changed. They tend to get pretty clogged up with all the tire sealant that comes in and out. Something that's a massive hack that I think people don't do is I use this dyno plug tool, which I put into the tire. If it gets a puncture, it usually seals. Then I'll also blast this with CO2 with a CO2 cap holder. Rather than just having these 2 things in a saddlebag, I usually carry these on me in my back pocket so that I have quick, easy access. This came in incredibly clutch when my back tire decided to leave the chat on the 3rd descent. If you have cargo bibs, it's a great place to put them there. Generally, from the stuff that I could control, the equipment that I used, I was really happy. My nutrition plan for the Traka 200 was going to anywhere between 90 to 100 grams of carbohydrate. Now, I am sponsored by Morton's. I do use purely Morton products. Also, something that came in extremely clutch was this pack of Haribos, which my girlfriend gave me at the feed station. That absolutely carried to keep things interesting. I had 2 large bidons. To start with, one of them just had water electrolytes in, then the other one has just carb mix in. I mixed about 250 grams of carbohydrate in the big bidon. The good thing about having electrolytes in the other bidon is that they're generally not sticky. If you need to use the water to cool yourself down, which I often do, we'll get into an extremely funny moment I had at the 3rd feed. My fucking dishwasher is just going off on one at the moment. My hair did smell like electrolytes afterwards. That is just the gig that I signed up for. The day before the race, I'm just messing around with my brother.
This is Noah, and he thinks he's gonna beat me tomorrow.
Yeah.
Alec from Traka.
You've got the Subaru whip, Rev.
Dante.
Let's see that front wheel off the ground. Oh no! Escape mum!
We were just reconning the last bit of the course.
I know, but if this was a race, you'd be down on GC, bro. Look at the bunda, bro. Pause.
Just doing some efforts.
Yeah, he's gonna step up this bit, switch it around. Okay. Sling it up. Let's sling it up. Bosh. Not possible, apparently. Mate, and he's got the Subaru whip. Not possible. Four-wheel drive.
To make sure that the legs are firing on all cylinders. I think it's really important to get some higher heart rate efforts in the day before.
13 years at World Tour. Today we learn. Let's go. Red limiter. Yeah! Yeah! Come on. Jeez. Come on, bro.
This was the first time you ride that big bob.
There's nothing you can do training-wise that's going to change the result tomorrow. You can definitely check yourself out by just not warming up. Definitely just go for a ride the day before the race. The morning of the Traka 200 firmly started at 4 a.m. where I ate an enormous bowl of rice with 2 eggs, some passata to help it go down a little bit easier. Then I just crawled straight back into bed, slept for another hour and a half because everything was prepped the night before. We head over to the start finish. I already messed up a little bit because I didn't put my number on the right place.
Technicalities on the start line. Imagine it doesn't fit. It's exactly what you want at the start of like a bike race. This looks shit. Good service. I'll definitely come and get that.
Great, I got into the pen, mass start. Am I nervous at this point? Not really. The way I think about racing is that the training has been. I just have to hope that I've woken up on a good day. My legs are going to give me what I want. What did I want from this? I just wanted my legs to feel as good as possible for as long as possible.
The party continues here in Girona in 3, 2, 1, go!
I started with the open category this year in the 200. It's just more fun to be at the front of the race than the back of the pros. That's a pretty easy decision from now on. Was a bit carnage at the start. My brother and I found each other in the peloton. We were chatting a little bit. It was a little bit of a dogfight to the first corner, which was a bit chaotic. It was going to go up, climb after this corner. So it was quite important to be in a good position here. I was in a good position. I rode near the front pretty much the whole day until I got royally dispatched out of the aid station. We'll get to that. Going up the first couple of climbs, I'm being very careful to manage my effort. I know we've got a long day ahead. I really didn't want to burn too many matches at the start. I knew it was important to stay with the front group here over these first 3 climbs. The idea was that when we crested the 3 climbs was to be in a good group on the flat, because that's a really defining moment. It's about 50, 60 kilometers of kind of flat gravel road. If you're not in a group, you're in a lot of trouble. This didn't quite go to plan, to be fair. After some slightly scary descending from some of the other individuals in my group, would give sketchy juniors a good run for their money these days, actually, some of these gravel heads. Anyway, it was still fun. We made it out alive. It wasn't too many crashes. I saw one guy bin it on the 3rd descent after I promptly punctured on the rear tire. And I was, okay, plan to be in a good group at the bottom of these 3 climbs had just completely gone to shit. Anyway, I plugged the tire as quick as I could. I then CO2'd it. I got rolling again on the descent. I didn't take too many risks here because I know a lot of people crashed on the descents, just because the way the rockage is here in Girona is it's just quite loose. The moment you start to lose traction, unless you're a pro drifter, Alec, or I wouldn't even call myself a pro drifter at this point. I can definitely get the back end out when I need to. Then you're gonna be in a lot of trouble, which some people found themselves in. Also, to film the race, I'm using the new Insta360 X5. My affiliate link works with the new Insta360. If you want a new one, there's a good chance to get one. The battery life was extremely impressive of the new X5. After the puncture, I was chasing. I got to the bottom of the climb. I was in no man's land. I had nobody. This is all gone to shit. I could see them ahead, I counted them to be just about a minute, kept my head down. I also found this Dutch rider who I rode with, not just in this part of the race, in the later part of the race, he'd also had an issue, he'd also punctured. We two-upped back to the group in the end after he collected me. We made it back on. Planned to be in the group for the really flat 60-kilometer part of the course, back on track. Then my body decided to do something which it doesn't usually do at this point in the race.
Okay, this is the situation. We're clocking in at 88 kilometers. I would love to say it's going really well, but it's not. We have made the front group.
I started to cramp in my right leg. I was, hold on, Brev, it's not looking good. Looking at my leg, shit, what am I gonna do? Thankfully, we collected Chief Gap Welder Nathan Haas.
We've got Nate Dizzle,
who I told him I was having issues in this big group. He was, here you go. He just gave me a hydro tab. So what do you want me to do with this? He goes, just eat it. I was like, okay. I just raw dogged the hydro tab. To be fair, with a bit of stretching after that, I was back in the game. Big up Carnargo teammate Nathan Haas for doing the world's deeds there.
some gaps need welding here. He's gonna gap this weld as well. I'm gonna be on the wheel, because that's where it should be.
He was firmly vibes crew this day after having some operation. Group almost split. Some guy tried to split the group. I hit an enormous pothole. My bike's gears just went into the biggest gear at the back. I was okay. I didn't crash. My Di2's gone into crash mode, apparently. This happens if you fall off the bike. I hadn't fallen off. I just hit a pretty decent pothole. It wasn't that big. Anyway, I'm asking people in the group, hey, do you know how to get the Di2 out of crash mode? We're 10K from the 119 kilometer aid at this point. I'm asking around, you need to press a button to reset it. I'm kicking the derailleur to see if that works. I'm just praying that the derailleur has just ran out of minerals. I just don't know what's going on. Anyway, I then decided to chat GBT how to get Di2 out of crash mode. That also wasn't too helpful. I made it into the aid with the lead group. The Rafa guys really come to the rescue there. They get somebody to come over, reset the Di2. It turns out my Di2 lever had gone into crash mode. I didn't even know the lever could go into crash mode. My girlfriend gave me all the nutrition I needed, cooled me down as well. It was getting quite warm at this part of the race. In hindsight, maybe carrying a little bit more water on the second half would have been good, because that 8-kilometer climb that we then went up was gonna cook a lot of individuals. Also, Noah update at this point. Noah is way back at this point. He's down on GC. It's looking, it's gonna be a firm abandon from him, because he's also struggling with some knee issues at this point. The goal of being my brother has been secured at this point, because I've not seen him for a hot minute. The new goal is just try and have as good legs towards the end of the race as possible. Taking it easy up this climb, I still went at least a minute quicker than I did last year, which was good, because last year my legs firmly exploded on this climb. It was really hot on this climb, especially in some of the really steep sections where there's just no airflow. I crested this climb. Oh, this is not the end of my issues, by the way, which actually happened to quite a few people, is that the GPX just disappeared from the head unit. Just completely disappeared. Every time I tried to reload it, it wouldn't reload. I was now in this position where I need to ride with people that I can do the route. I didn't have a choice to ride with people who were going a lot faster than me at a pace that I didn't want to go at. I was burning some severe matches at this point in the race to ensure that I knew where I was going. Thankfully, I do know some of the course already. That helped. For this section of the course, I had no choice. I was absolutely cooking. I made a lot of passes. A lot of people who'd passed me on the climbs, I was catching again because they had just ran out of minerals at this point. We stopped at the third aid. Me and this Dutch guy who I'd been riding with previously, he collected me on one of the flat parts. I was hot coming into this aid station. I located where the water was. They had these jugs and they were giving me the jugs, pouring over my head. All in the race is a massive, for me it's a massive deal because I really struggle with heat. I've spent many years struggling in the heat and it's a massive crux of mine. I put my sweat jacket on when I'm training to get better at riding in the heat, but also just during race day, really important to be on top of it.
Tens tu la tapa? Va, aquí tengo una tapa,
Right.
Anyway, we're going, and with about 25 kilometers, the Dutch guy that I've been riding with just leaves me for dead, like the Tademu. And this was the biggest hole I fell into in the race. This was the most shelled I felt the entire race. And again, I was just like struggling to find people to ride with because I just needed the route. I didn't know this part of the course that well, and I just didn't want to make wrong turnings because I'd made wrong turnings in the recon. That's another really good reason to do recons, because sometimes the course is not so easy to see where you're going. And so anyway, for 25k to 10k to go, I really flapped around and I was in a real bad way, and we had to go up some really steep climbs again in the heat, and I could feel the cramps coming back into my legs. There was a lot of guys that I'd passed previously that I really didn't want to get passed by again. I'm like struggling to weigh up how hard to go to manage the cramps but not get passed by people. But anyways, we crest this last climb, which was called Sangrau, and this was horrific. Gerard did not need to put this in the course, and it was steep. You had no choice but to do 350 watts to get up this. No choice at all. And I don't know, it felt so much longer in the race than it did in the recon. But I crested this. My legs were cramping over the top. Really, like I was on the verge of getting full leg lock. But I crested, I came to the bottom, I rode at the bottom with a couple guys, and then for the last 5k, I felt amazing. Something came over me.
Maybe that's why my DR2 didn't work.
And I put my head down, got in the drops. I was so happy to be done, and when I crossed the start finish, my brother was there, so he'd obviously got a lift back. My girlfriend was there. Some of the other pro women had already finished, and it's just an amazing atmosphere to finish the Traka. I think that's one of the biggest things and best things about the Traka, is that Girona as a whole is an amazing place, and when the Traka comes into town, it's like a massive gathering, and this is exactly what the finish of the Traka is also. And so I collected myself, I went home, I showered, I had a nap, and then I came back to the start finish. I was happy to have survived the Traka 200 in a much better state than I did last year. If you're wondering whether you should come, I think it's a no-brainer at this point. Let's get it.